Hello everyone, welcome back. In this video, we are going to be populating our Firebase database with some dummy data regarding a conversation. And in the following video, we are going to create the Firebase function that is going to then copy the new conversation that is created between two users and copy the appropriate data to every user's conversation collection, which for now we do not have. So without anything further to do, let's get into it. So I'm going to click on Start a Collection, and I'm going to name my collection Conversations. You can name it Chats if you want. I just like Conversations. And then I'm going to click on Next. Once I have the conversation created, the next thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to click on Auto ID. And then I'm just going, for now, save my document. So now we have this document, and now I'm going to add some data to this. But before that, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to open another Firebase console so that I can easily grab the IDs of the different users that I want to create the conversation between. So in my first example, I'm going to create a conversation between Hussein and James. So I'm going to firstly copy Hussein's ID. I'm going to go back to our conversations. I'm going to add a field, and this field is going to be an array. It's going to be our members array. We'll have a string, and then we'll have another string. The first one would be Hussein's ID, and the second one would be James. Okay, so once we have the IDs copied, I'm going to click on Add Field again, or not Add Field, but just click on Add. Once we have the members defined, the next thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to click on, or I'm going to create a new field, which would be messages.members. And this would be an array. And this would be an array of maps. But for now, we'll leave it empty, so I'll just click on Add. And then I'll delete the one map that we accidentally added. And finally, I'm going to click create the owner of our application, so the owner ID, and the owner of this chat could be either of them. It could be either Hussein or James, and owner just signifies who actually created the conversation initially. I'll mark Hussein is the one who created it, and I'll paste in Hussein's ID, and I'm going to click on Add. Once we have this, the next thing we're going to do is that I'm going to show you the manual process. So now what we have to do is that we have to go to each individual user, and then to them we have to add some data. So now we'll go to each individual user. In this case, the first user would be Hussein. I'll start a collection for him, and I'll call this Conversations. Once we have this, I'm going to click on Next. And now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go back, and I'm going to take the second ID, or the user that we are talking to. Hussein is talking to James, I guess. So I'm just going to paste in James's ID, and then I'm going to click on Save. So now we know that Hussein is talking to James, but we still have to copy over some other data. So you have to copy over James' email. So the name first, which is James Dean. We also have to copy over the user's image. So I'm just going to copy it from here, from James's, and then come here and add it. So I'm just going to now copy in the image URL, which is going to be this. And now finally, we would need another thing, and that would be the actual, if we go back, it's going to be our unseen count for our application. So just go here and do unseen count. And for now, it's going to be a number, which would be 0. So we have the three things added. And now every time a message is added to our actual conversation, the last message is then going to populate the last message field here and the actual timestamp field. So with that, we did this, but we have to do the same process for the other user, which is James. So James is going to have a conversation with Hussein. So I'm going to copy the ID of Hussein. I'm going to start a new collection. I'm going to call this Conversations. I'm going to click on Next. I'll paste in Hussein's ID, and then I'll click on Save. Once we have this, the next thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to go back to Hussein. I'm going to copy Hussein's image URL. And then I'm going to go back to James's conversations, click on the conversation he's having with Hussein, click on Add, and then I'm going to add an image first. And this image would be Hussein's image. Then I'm going to add another field, which would be name, which in this case would be Hussein Mustafa. And then finally, I'm going to add another field, and this field is going to be the unseen count. So now you can see how this is a really tedious task, and we do not want to put this logic in a client-side application because we cannot trust the client, and the client can be anywhere. So that's why we're going to employ a Firebase function that is going to run every time a new conversation is created, or a new message is added to a conversation, and depending on the logic of those functions, it's going to perform the different tasks that were highlighted in the previous video. And now the answering count would be a number and 0. So with that, we have copied over the necessary data that we need from the actual conversation that we created to the users conversations collection for the respective users. And now in the next video, what we're going to do is that we're going to create a new conversation. But this time we're only going to create the conversation, and the logic for actually copying all of this data for the newly created conversation between the two members of a conversation is going to be handled by a cloud function. So with that, I'm going to end this video here. I'm going to see you guys in the next one, and peace.